Hi, this is John Welkert with Jerome Cerny Architects. This is video number 5 in a series I've been doing on Graphisoft's Archicad and how quickly you can be up and running right out of the box. We've been designing a single family home, floor plans and roof plan, and now we're going to be working on elevations. And so we'll get started with that to open up Archicad. So we're going to do a few things to clean up some of the items when we last left off in video number 4. And that is at the front entry area, I wanted a roof over that porch and a column there. And so we're going to go ahead and do that. For that, we're going to go to the first floor plate. And as you see, we have the roof here, and we have an outside porch on the first floor. Actually, we'll go down to the first floor, and we're going to add a column there, maybe a foot square, 16 inches square, something like that. We'll go up here and go to our column tool on the left, set it for columns layer so that falls on that layer. We're going to set the geometry to square or rectangular. Type of material we just already have set here for heavy wood timber. I think we'll actually just change that to brick, and we'll skip anything on that floor plan section. And we are currently on the first floor at -6. That is the level of our porch out here that we had previously put on, and our size of our column is 1.4 by 1.4. Had that in already. And so we'll go ahead and, one other item, the anchor point for putting in this column is going to be this front corner, so that when I go to this front corner right here and click, I have the column put in for us. Now we'll go up 1 story, go over to Organizer here, click on first floor plate, and we'll highlight our roof. And we're going to add, at our pivot line here, we're going to add a node, or a handle as I call them, and put that, I'm holding the shift key down so I stay on that line, and I want to have it equal to the outside of this column. And then we're going to take this pivot line and extend the entire line. You kind of see our roof structure going with us at the moment. And out we go to the end of that column. And I think, based upon looking at it before, I actually wanted to make it a little smaller than that. In terms of the roof, it's a little large, and it's actually not where I would like it. So I'm going to pull it back D1-4, and I'm going to pull it to the side D1-4, just from an alignment standpoint, and then makes this entry roof a little smaller and not as large in scale to the main roof here. So I've got that cleaned up. That was something I wanted to do, and I want to put a roof on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to suck up the roof settings, okay, which sets it to the roof tool and the roof settings, and I'm going to go along here and do it doesn't really matter here, planes of roofs, as much as it does this one right here. I'm going to click on that, so I'm going to create a gable, and I'm going to create this gable. If you come along here with no overhang, so up here where it says offset, I'm going to put in 0. All right, and then I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to click there, and I want to align with that. So I'm going to find my, zoom in a little bit and find my guideline, and I'm going to pull this out until you see that other line that's running parallel with the dark line that I'm moving. Okay, that's the ridge, and I want to have it orient the other way. So I've got to pull it to a point where it changes orientation, and there it did right there. So that means it's longer right to left than it is up and down on the screen. And I'm just going to click there, and that's going to give me a gabled roof. And then we're going to want to have it intersect the other roof, the hip roof. So we're going to click on both, go up to the top here under Design, Connect, Trim Elements to Roof Shell. Click on that and leave it set where it's set there. Use roofs and shells from current selection, and hit Trim. And now what you see is we've created this hip saddle in here. And now looking at it, it looks like it's probably, we really want it to come out to these edges. And so what I think I will do is elevate this. And in order to do that, and I normally haven't wanted to get into 3D stuff with you too much, but what we'll do here is I'm going to take this marquee tool, and just because I don't want to show you all that much of the 3D, I'm going to go around the area I want to look at. So we're going to go up to View, Elements in 3D, Show Selection, Marquee in 3D. And that does. And now we're going to grab this, as I think I talked to you a little bit about 3D before, and zoom in on that roof. And I'm going to take that roof, I'm going to elevate it. And I'm going to elevate it by going down to this point right here, because that's the point I want, and I want to bring it up to there. So I'm going to go Control D and just bring it up to that point. You see that little intersection icon, hopefully it's showing up on the screen at that intersection. And I'm going to click on it. And now we have the roof going to that point. We'll click out of our 3D view. You can see how our hip looks correct. And then we come here and it looks correct on that as well. So we've got that hip in, saddle, if you will. And we're going to click on these walls and now make them only show up on the home story, because we're going to have that chimney cap showing up on our roof plan, and we're really working on an intermediate plan at the moment that we'll never have cause to print. So we'll say home story on that, and that's great. Now we'll go up to the second floor plate, and wake up a little, there we go, which is the roof plan. And actually, you know what, at this point in time, that is what we're going to call this. If you look over at Organizer on the right, so I'm going to right click on that and say rename, and we're going to replace second floor plate with the words roof plan, because that's what in fact it is. So that changes that, says roof plan, terrific. And if you recall, we already had that on a sheet over here called roof plan, and now that changed that view symbol, that view now called roof plan. Now with that, we want to do the same thing back over here and put a gable saddle there. So we'll suck up the settings of that roof, and we'll go in and do just as we did before and align that, get a guideline, there it is, and pull that out to a point until it clicks over to the gable. And what we didn't do there was we didn't set the offset for the overhangs to 0. So we'll just go back and do that right that moment. And we will select the upper roof, and then we will go to Design menu, Connect, Trim Elements, leave that alone, Trim, and we've trimmed it. And again, we have to raise that height. So again, just to highlight that area, we're going to go to the Marquee tool, click off of that, grab, go to View, 3D, View, the Show Selection in Marquee in 3D, and we'll have that here. Now, when something like that doesn't show up, just go down to this icon right down here, and you'll have it grab everything and put it right in the middle. So now we're looking at that chimney, we're going to highlight that, and again, we're going to do the same thing, Control D, grab the edge of the roof right here and bring it up in the vertical fashion till we get that intersection sign, and click off of it, and we've moved it up, and it's shown correctly here, and in fact it's correct in 3D as we just saw. We'll click outside that marquee, and then that's taken care of, and you know, we have the other one over here in the roof plan, so that looks good. We got that squared away, and now we'll go down to the first floor, and something we're going to do now is change our walls to a composite wall. And the reason we're going to do that at this stage is that I want the windows and doors to show up correctly on our exterior elevations. And by that I mean we have you know, moldings, brick moldings running around, and the depth of the windows and the walls. And as you see just for an example, if we zoom in on these doors here, of course you see that their brick mold is outside the wall when in fact it really would be set in, and that door jamb is on the outside edge of the wall, and if that's a brick veneer wall, that would be incorrect. It was okay for us, just to show our client, because they're probably not going to pick out that little nuance. But now, to make sure that our elevations look correct, and ultimately in preparation for making our setting up our drawing to go to working drawings, we're going to make that outside wall a composite wall. And what I mean by that is we're going to change this single basic wall structure, and we'll click on the wall tool. We're going to change this single basic wall structure, if you go up to the top right here, and we're going to go from that to a complex profile. And so to do that, we select this icon, and then we have a selection of walls Archicad has already prepared for us, only a few. I've got quite a few in my current library, and you will too as soon as you know how to set these up, and relatively easy to do. So what we want to set up is we want to set up a brick veneer wall, and we're going to take one of their initial walls that they call brick and 2x6 wood studs. We'll click on that, and that's what we're going to set these up for. However, I want to set this up to be exactly what I want it to be, and so we're going to go up here to options, and under element attributes, that's the first item, and then over here in composites, click on composites, and then in here, since we had this in the toolbar up above, it automatically put us here, but if we weren't, we would slide around and find this brick. And now what we're going to do is we don't want to disturb this setting. We're going to go duplicate and say brick 2x6 wood studs, and then we'll put my company's 3 letters JCA. Of course, you'll come up with your own naming configuration and later when you start to create your own library of composite structures. But for now, that's what we're going to name it. And now what we're going to do is look at the configuration of that wall and set it for what we want it to be. So the first skin of the wall is our brick, and that's 3 5/8 thick, and we're going to leave that alone and just as it is. And then we have a line, and then we have airspace. Now that airspace, I'm going to make 1.375 or 1 3/8 inches. And of course I didn't type in inches after that, so it took it as feet. And the nice thing there is that these two combined make up 5 inches total, and I just like that number. And then our wood sheathing, this is actually going to be an insul board, so I'm going to change the material. Now this isn't crucial or critical, but I'm going to change that material to insulation foam board. Okay, that's just going to give me different section looks as we look at it in plan. And that's going to be 1 inch thick. All right, then we have wood frame and insulation, and I'm going to change this to be the wood insulation, wood frame and insulation graphic, and that means that it's going to show the insulation in the section. So if you look back up here right now where I'm circling the mouse, that is blank. It's going to change to now look like insulation, and that's going to be 5.5 inches, and then our gypsum board is going to stay at 1/2. So we've done everything here, and oh look, it's totaled up to be 1 foot. Just happens to be exactly what we set up initially. Wonder how that happened. So we've set up this new wall. We're going to say okay. So now that wall's in our library and available to us. And now what we want to do is we want to take all these exterior walls that we created and change them to that wall. So in order to do that, we could go around and change every wall, or in fact the easier thing to do is the following. We're going to go up to an icon up here just under the word design, but not under that menu. this little icon right here, and that's the Find and Select. We're going to click on that, and this little menu comes up and gives us a bunch of criteria that we can go out and select something. So what I'll do here is just remove some of these and show. It'll start out usually with element type, and what we want to put in there is we're looking for, you know, a wall, or in our case, you know, many walls, and then we're going to add another criteria, and that criteria is we're going to look for layers, and the layer we're going to look for, we want to look for, is our wall's exterior layer. And then because we don't want these walls that are around the chimney, which are currently walls and they are exterior walls, we need something else to differentiate. And so what we'll do there is say add, and then I think there is a width criteria. There we go, width. And the width we're going to add is 1 foot. So because this is 8 inches, we know that won't get selected, and I'll show you that when I say, okay, these are our 3 criteria. We're going to now say, okay, please go and select all of the things that meet that criteria. And as you can see, all of our exterior walls are highlighted, no interior walls. Now, this is all done with you presetting those walls and anything else that you wanted set for exterior walls, you know, on that layer. If you labeled something, you'd be selecting those too, and that happens, and you'll find that out when all of a sudden you change maybe an interior wall that you inadvertently had put on the exterior layer. I don't think we did that here, so we've gone ahead and done that. Now what we're going to do is go up here, and we're in the wall tool, under the wall information, we're going to change the structure to composite. We're going to change the selection of the composite to our new one that we created, and that was, there it is, the brick 2x6 JCA. And so we click on that, you see the little spinning wheel, and it's working, and now all those walls are changed. And you say, well, geez, how do you tell that? They're all pochade in dark. Well, if you look closely, you'll see there's some skin layer lines in there to show you that they in fact really have changed. Now what we're going to do so that we can see those, under permit set, it just so happens we have a first floor plan there, and we're going to use that temporarily to look at what the first floor plan would look like if we clicked on that. And there you can see that is showing actually our composite wall correctly. As you can see, that door right there not shown correctly. We're going to be going around and changing those. And then the only way that they will show up correctly and be recessed in the proper distance and the brick mold show recessed is that when they are in a composite wall. When they're in just a basic wall like they've been, they won't show up correctly, unfortunately. So we're doing that so that on our elevations they're going to look the way we want them to look, which is the correct look. Okay, we've got that done. We're going to go up to the second floor and do the same thing there. So we're going to select, use our selection criteria and say we want a wall and an exterior wall and a 1 foot exterior wall. That way we won't be picking up these walls around the staircase. All right, let's go ahead and say select, and looks like we've got the correct ones. And then again, we will change the basic structure to composite, and we'll change the type of wall to the JCA, and all of those have changed. And because we don't have a second floor plan down here, I'm going to show you how to, if we go over to the right side of the organizer, also click on the view map there. What I'm going to do is create a second floor plan under our permit set here. And so if you watch carefully, going down here, I'm going to say save current view, and I'm going to give it the that's currently the second floor name, which we'll leave for the moment, and everything that's set up like so, except we don't want model view options shown as present solid. We want them shown as it would be, let's say, in construction documents. And again, we'll have a video on model view options on all these settings later on. But for now, just trust me on set for construction documents and say create. And it's created that view. It just happened to throw it here. So what we'll do is we'll just click on it, hold it, bring it up into that construction, that permit set, and drop it in there. And that's where we're going to have it, so we'll know where to find it. And as you can see, it's set all those nicely, but what it isn't doing quite correctly, because all our interior walls are set for brick right now. It's melding the brick wall into this exterior. The easiest way to fix that is just go ahead and set our interior walls to the correct thing. So we'll go find all of those. They're wall instead of exterior. We're going to look for walls interior. Okay, we don't want them a foot thick. In fact, we don't even need that. So we'll just remove that criteria. So we'll say wall, all walls interior, layers, select. It's selected all the interior walls. Now we're going to go up and change our wall to a composite, and we're going to see if we happen to have an interior wall that we might be able to do. Now it says we have 2x4 studs with half-inch chipboard. We don't want that. We want 2x6. So we're all still with our walls selected. What we're going to do is we're going to go to Options, Element Attributes, go down to Composites. Guess it wants us to click out of that first. Okay, then that will pop up. And what we're going to look for is that 2x4 wood studs with half-inch jip on both sides. And click on that. And then we're going to say duplicate that. And we're going to change the name to 2x6 wood studs with half on each side. Get rid of the word copy and say OK. And then we have our structure here of that composite. And of course, the thing we need to change is that wood framing being only 3.5 inches. We're going to change that to 5.5 inches and say OK. And now we have, and we go ahead and click on that because this is what we had that dropped in here prior to us making that change. It's gone ahead and changed it all to this siding with 2x6. That's not what we want. And because they're all still highlighted, we just go change it to what we want it to be, which is our 2x6 wood studs with a half-inch chip on each side. We click on that. It's changed them all. We click off of that, and we all have good connections all the way around. All right. So sorry that took a little longer than what I had planned, but that's our second floor. We've corrected that. So again, when we get out to those windows, things will go together well for us. And with that, let's see. I am seeing one thing that I want to clean up still, and that is I'd really like to see that chimney cap in this view. And so what we need to do is go up a plate. Follow me on this. Go up to the roof plan and go over to that morph we had created for the chimney cap, and come up to the floor plan and sections right up here in the top. And we have that set for show on home story only. So what we want to do there is we want it on the home story, of course, but we also want it on the second floor. So we're going to say home story and 1 story down. Click on that. And now when we're on that second floor, that chimney cap will show up and better relates to the hip saddle that we, or the gable saddle that we had put in there. We will go over and make one other change. This roof currently runs over this whole staircase when it shouldn't. It really needs to have a hole cut into it, or a notch cut into it, let's say, for this staircase. So what we're going to do is zoom in here. We're going to put a handle or a little node. Now we need to be in the roof tool. So what we'll do is just suck up the roof tool right there, suck up that roof settings, and we're in that roof tool. Click right here and add a node, and then come down here. Being careful, we want to add another node right there. And you see that little check mark that came up for us. And then we're going to take this roof edge and we're going to pull that one edge all the way out to the edge of this staircase. And you see, because of the color change there, we've cut that notch into that roof. And if you'd like further proof, we can do View, Show Selection and Marquee, 3D. There we go. So now you can see that we've got that notch cut out in that roof for that staircase there. All right, little 3D teaser. All right, so I think we're ready to start on elevations, finally. Sorry for that cleanup time, but there were a few things that I wanted to make sure we did for the client and for you, ultimately. And we have these 4 elevation markers that are set up around the building, okay, that Archicad gave us initially. And so what we want to do first is just kind of in general look at these. You know, if you want to have maybe about this far away from the structure, we'll go Control D and grab this one over here. Actually, we have them all selected. We have to unselect. So we'll grab that one, go Control D, pull that out a little bit. And then the ends, we want to make those go by the end of the building, by the end of the roof. And just, you know, let's say maybe out one of these grid lines to here. And down here, that's probably, let's set it to that grid line there. All right. That just shows that's what we're going to be looking at, right to left, when we look at this elevation. And just on the opposite elevation here, we can go to the same place so that the elevation view is going to look the same when we put it on a sheet in terms of its length. So this, I can't move it right or left. I'm just bringing my mouse over and I'm going to go find where that should be somewhere around here. There it is. Okay, that is the end, the same as it is here. Okay, and we can have them both highlighted here as long as we're not going to move them right or left. If we're just moving nodes, we can move a node while the other one is still selected. And so we've done that, and so those 2 elevations are going to be the same in width when we put them on a piece of paper and what we call layout. All right, we'll click off of those. We'll take this, what is going to be the front elevation marker, and go Control D and just pull it back a little bit to here. And then again, on the left side, maybe go to that grid line in line here, and we'll take it past here, maybe middle of this grid line. And then up above, that one's probably pulled away far enough, so we'll just highlight that with the other one highlighted at the same time. Pull this out and just drag it and make it match. And again, take the left side as we're looking at it, which is really the right side of the elevation, and click on it. And so now we've got the 4 set up correctly. Now, to add a little more confusion into this whole process, is these are set up with certain parameters right now and certain settings. And what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and open up this front setting, talk about it a little bit, and we're going to come back and create new elevation markers and save these markers for later on when we're going to do construction documentation. And I'll tell you why in a minute. So we're going to right click, highlight, right click on that. Come on, right click. Come on. I guess we've got to get a node there. Okay, open elevation in new window. And so in a new window, there is our front elevation. And a couple things we'll look at and note off the bat is that when we put that front column in just a little bit ago, we didn't check on its height. So now we're going to check on its height. We're going to do 2 things. One, either we can set the height up top here, and right now it's tied to the first floor plate, and it's 20'10" tall. We can change this by unlinking it, or we can go down here and graphically just grab a point and drag downward, and you see this little pet palette that comes up here, and you see this is a move, and this is actually a stretch in height, vertically, I mean in height, obviously vertically, up and down. So we're going to click on that, and that's going to allow us to go up and down. And what we're going to do is zoom in, and I'm just going to make it the same height as the bottom of this fascia. Okay, in fact, it'll probably be higher than that, but we'll adjust that later when we're doing some sections and technically making sure that we're going to set that height correctly and build it correctly. So for right now, it is sitting on what is the slab out front, the porch slab, and goes up to the bottom of the fascia there. All right, the next thing we're going to look at, we'll click off of that, is we set these first floor walls originally all based upon 0, and 0 being the top of the first floor. Now, as we look at this, of course, what you will probably do in the future, because it is what I do, and of course what I do is correct, is set top of foundation as 0. And thus you would actually see more wall here. So we're going to make that, call it slight correction now, and we're going to do that by going back to our floor plan, first floor, and there we are on first floor. And now we want to take all of our exterior walls, and so in order to do that, we're going to come up here to find and select. We're going to look for walls, we're going to look for exterior layer, okay, and we're going to say select them all. So now we have all exterior walls, including those fireplace walls. Now, even though they might be a different profile, we still want them to start at the top of foundation, and when we go ultimately to put in a foundation underneath all of this, we're going to set all of that to the top will be 0. So we have to think now in terms of, instead of being a base at 0, we want to be down what would be to the top of foundation. And in order to calculate that, I'm going to make the assumption I'm going to use 12-inch TGI joists, or I-joists. I'm going to have 3/4 inch floor sheathing, so that's 12 3/4. And I'm going to have 1.5 inch plate, so that is 1 foot, 2 3/4 total. Okay, follow me on that? So click on that area, and we're going to go minus, because we got to go below 0, minus 1-2.25. All right, so minus 1, 2 1/4, and that's changed all those exterior walls. We will go back to that front elevation that we were looking at, and I think that's the south elevation. If we look over here, I didn't look to see which one lit up before, but I'm pretty sure it was south. Yep, it was. And widen that out just a little bit. And you see it's taken it down, and you know that because there's the slab at -6 is the top, and so this is at 0, and our foundation will go beyond that, or go below that. So we've got that set correctly, so when we're looking at this elevation. Now, interestingly enough, when we changed those chimneys walls and we brought their bases down, because they were tied to something, in other words, they weren't not linked, we actually lowered those walls, versus in the main part of the building that really became a stretch and they came down. So what we're going to do is we're going to just grab these chimney caps for the moment and drag those down. Those are the morphs that we created to simulate chimney caps. And since looking at it, I'd say we're well above 3 feet above the ridge and 3 feet above this ridge. I'm not going to worry exactly about their height and what I really want them to be. Visually, I think it looks good. Proportionally, it looks good. So we're just going to leave those alone for the moment. So we've got that done. We've extended these walls. We've got that taken care of. And one other item that we're going to do that is going to be contrary to the settings that we had done earlier is this upper roof area. We'll close out of that, find and select this upper roof area. You can see the profile of the fascia there is very thin compared to the first floor, and this is where we did our 2x12s and 1/2 inch plywood, and this is where we did the thinner. I want that to look the same, and we're still going to do it with trusses when we get into working drawings, but for now, in order to make it look the same, and not have to put in a fascia and do it in that fashion. We're gonna take this and change that structure, and instead of the 4 inches that we had it, we're gonna make that 1 foot, and then that's going to basically throw the roof up and give us a fascia that matches the one on the first floor, which is what I want to have happen. We've done that. That looks good. That's cleaned up. Now in this view here, we could go ahead and start making some changes on our windows, which we're going to need to do, and doors, and make sure that they're shown correctly. One other item of cleanup still needed are these walls in the staircase here, and those are just stuccoed walls, not brick walls, as you see there. And I don't think we changed actually the true composite of that wall. So we're going to do that now by going to the second floor, clicking on that. We'll zoom in on that staircase, and actually we'll go to this second floor under permit set so we can see the structure of those walls, and you can see, yes, in fact, they're just a basic wall. We're going to change those. Let's go ahead and highlight, select those 3 walls. That's that one. That one. And this one. So we've selected those 3 walls. Okay, so what we want to do now is go and select the correct structure of a wall that we're going to want here. And in order to do that, we're going to go in here to look at the availability. We have a stucco with 2x6 wood studs, and we'll click on that, and that's not really probably what we want because there's probably a few settings that aren't correct. So we're going to go up to options, element attributes, composites, and we're going to select the stucco and 2x6 wood studs, and we're going to say duplicate, and we will just put in here JCA, and then we'll look at stucco, not an inch there, say OK, and look at stucco here, and that's really 7/8. There's a 3-coat system. Wood sheathing, probably 1/2 inch. I'd say that's correct. Wood frame and insulation, that is, except we want that insulation to show up, so we need to select the one that says insulation graphic. And then 1/2 inch gypsum board, and that's correct. So we'll say OK, and now we will go up here and change this to the JCA one, and we've got the correct, except that this needs to be flipped, and we will go ahead and flip that by going up to the edit menu, going down to reference line in plane, modify wall reference line, mirror walls in place, and say OK. And it mirrored them in place, put the reference line on the outside. You can see that our stucco and plywood sheathing is here, and then just 1 layer of drywall here. So that's correct. We'll click off of that, and we got that taken care of. So I think that's all the cleanup. And now we'll go back to that elevation and start looking at what we're going to do here. So let me explain. First, this isn't the look that we're going to want to have to show our client at this preliminary stage, although this is going to be something similar to what we're going to look at when we go to working drawings. It's not the way we want it to look, and there are still many design changes, cleanup changes that we're going to make. One of them being, if you notice, look at all those windows that we ended up putting in as double hungs in the preliminary. which we didn't necessarily catch, but it didn't matter when we looked at the floor plan because it still kind of showed a window, and that was good enough, or at least it turned out to be good enough. Consequently, we can start to make those changes, and I think what we'll do is start with the windows up in this level, and we're going to go around and do this with our working drawing elevations. So we're under that one that we clicked on, and then I'll show you we're going to create new elevation markers to show us these elevations in a new style, if you will, which will be our preliminary style. So we're going to click on this window. There's going to be a lot of changes that we're going to make on this window, so pay attention, and I'll try to move reasonably slowly. One of the first changes here I'm going to make is the height of the window. I'm going to make that 5 foot tall because I want it to be taller. And then we're going to open up the windows. And before we do anything, we're going to go to casements, and that's the casement that we want. And we're going to inject, and that's Alt or Option key and the Command key, and then our little syringe shows up, and we're going to inject our settings. Okay, and in this case, the only settings that really matter too much here are in fact the height and width of the window, but that's fine. We'll inject that in. Now, this is our preview of our floor plan of that window. If we actually go to elevation, you can actually see there's an elevation preview, and it's a window that is a casement window. So we'll go back to that, and then now I'm going to show you quite a few of our settings that we're going to do for this window. And that starts with, if this is closed up on yours, even to this point, okay, that's that preview panel that you saw there, and we can make changes in height and width and so on, which we already did before we selected the casement. And then this one is kind of the main one you almost go to a lot, just because this is where most of all the settings are. And we're going to start with general settings for this window. We're going to say that we're going to want the sill to show on the inside. We want the stool to show on the inside. Our wall type is going to be a brick veneer, and we have our 2D level already set. And so this is all set. That just goes in automatically. We're going to actually show it a little different than that. And that one's good. So now there are, under this area here, there are quite a few settings. And we're going to go through each and every one of those. That first one is this setting, and shows that we have a 1/4 inch shim space and the height of the window based upon its unit size, and we can show it and set it differently. I usually set it by unit size. So we've got that, and we're going to go to the next, which we were just at, the general settings. Click again. Now here are some other settings for the window itself. Now, it depends how exacting you want to get here. As long as we're here, you can make some changes. We haven't decided whether this is a Pella window or Marvin window or whose ever window. So changing the thickness here of the jamb, is it an 1.25 inch type jamb? Is it 1.5 inches? It all depends on the window manufacturer. 1.5 inches leaving here is fine. 4.5 for the standard window. Probably 4 9/16 is a standard. 4.5 is probably fine again, for our purposes. Here, as we look at it, the only one we might change, the sash width is 1 3/4. 1/4 inch is just this margin of rabbit that's right there, and this is the thickness of the glass at 1/4 inch. If you want to change it to half, just so we start changing some stuff while we're here, is fine. And then the actual casement unit frame is 2 1/4 inches, and again, that's fine. The sill that we've got set up, 2 inches there, no need to change that. So we'll click on the next. This just talks about the shape and the opening. Not much to do here on this one single unit. and we're going to leave it in the closed position, both in 2D and 3D. And here is this has to do with model overriding model views, and for right now we are going to do one item, and that's in the 3D. Is click on this override, and we're going to click on opening line so that it doesn't show up. This on a double hung is considered an opening line, and as you saw when we looked at that casement, it had a triangular opening line in there. I don't want that for my preliminary, so we took that out by overriding that view. Okay. Next set of changes. Sash style is just going to be an open one piece of glass, no mullions. There are many to choose from, and you can even come up with customs, but we're going to go with that. The sash setback, I'm going to actually leave this at 0. We are going to flip the look here in a little bit, but we'll leave that set at 0. Again, we'll make it to our next set here of settings, and on the outside we're going to have a casing which is going to mimic brick mold, and that's going to be about 2 inches wide and about 1.25 inches thick. And this margin from the edge of our window to where the brick mold starts, I'm going to actually make a 1/2 inch. I don't think we'd ever see a full inch there, but we'll say 1/2 inch. The jamb extension on the inside is going to be 1/2 inch thick. The casing on the inside 1/2 inch thick. Again, not too concerned about that. 2 inches for the width of the casing. And this is the overlap here. Again, I'm going to set that for 1/4 inch. Only going to matter if we ever look at it from the inside. Head casing and the outside casing 2 inches tall in both cases. We'll leave that alone. Any overhangs, we're not going to change that either. Move on to the next, sill and stool settings. So we're going to set the sill to 3 degrees, just have a slight pitch on that. The overhang of that wood sill is 1.5 inches. Inside it's 1 5/8 inches, 3/4 inch thick sill piece. And I'm going to click I do want an apron, and that apron is preset for 1/2 by 2. If you're clicking along on yours and they're different, you know, make them the same, change them, do whatever, just so you can see, you know, what it's looking like. These are the overhangs on the outside. We will change those when we see these in 2D and decide if we want them larger or smaller. And then you can actually see what that's going to do for us. You know, we could do that in preview here and you'd see it, but we'll save it. Next item is wall inset. Some things here we don't need to change. This is for if we had shutters and so on, which we don't, so we're going to slip by that. Custom corner issues, we don't on that window. And then the recess here, we're not going to do anything in terms of the reveal type. I believe it has the negative reveal setting. And brick veneer, define reveal depth. The reveal depth, that's going to be defined instead of by inches that we saw previously set, we're going to define it by skin. Okay, and we want the brick mold actually to be set back further than just the first skin, which is the brick. It's the brick in the airspace. So we're going to set this for 2 skins. And again, if you're not following that, when I get to the floor plan, I'll point that out to you. We are going to be using a brick sill, and we want it to be a detailed one, so we actually see some thicknesses. The brick thickness, we're going to set that for 2 5/8. And I didn't. Now, what happens there, just so you know, is it doesn't wait very long for you to input things. So when you do start, you've got to go 2.625 inches, or it throws foot in there and, you know, you have to start over again, as you just saw. Mortar thickness, I'm just going to make that 1/2 inch thick, or 0.5 inches. The brick, in 3D, the color, I'm going to set here for surface color, brick surface color. It won't have a running bond or a stack bond, it's just surface color. And then the mortar is going to be a light gray, and we'll find right there, paint light gray. And so that'll be the color for that. I want that sill to be at 3 degrees. this number here, 4 and 23 seconds, that just goes in with a calculation for the overall thickness. I think we'll just make that 4 inches. And then this overhang, will make that 2 inches. Sometimes I think these numbers go in because they are ultimately derived from the European version, which is in the metric system, and they convert it, and that's how we get the 30 seconds or the 64ths or whatever it's shown up. So we'll just change that to make it something that is a little more in keeping with what we would have. And we'll look at our arch style. We're also going to have not on this upper second floor window, but on the lower windows we will put in an arch, so we'll see that coming up. And that's it. Once we get the parameters listing, that's the last one. So we've made all those changes, and so now I'm going to say OK, and we're going to see that change. And just so you can see the changes there that it's done on the floor plan, we're going to go to the second floor plan over here in Organizer, and that's that window, and we're going to zoom in and see that. See how it looks funky here? And the reason, I mean, that's the brick mold, and it's supposed to be set in and notched in, and it's not. Well, it's because of the model view that we're in. And even though you can lightly see those lines of the skins, we're in this model view that is for presentation, and that poches in these walls. And when it does that, it plays around and shows this incorrectly. Don't know if that's a hiccup, don't know if it's user error here on my part, but I haven't been able to figure it out. So the way I do figure it out is I come over here and I go to, under the permit set, under second floor plan, click on it, and then I get my composite wall showing, and then you come down here and zoom in and you see, well, in fact, it's shown correctly. Now what I'm going to do while we're here is I'm going to go up to View, and I'm going to go to On-Screen Views, and I'm going to turn off the True Line Weight so that we can better see what we're dealing with. And then later on we'll talk about line weight and some of the settings you may want to fool around with. Anyhow, as you can see, this is now shown reasonably correctly, except for the fact that this window and the rabbet that's in here would then indicate that this casement unit would enter to the inside. And actually, I'm going to show you something. On these windows, you can decide that, hey, I want to show somebody that this really operates, and you want to. So graphically, you can open it and put it in an open position, whatever you want, 90 degree all the way. However, this is not the way, at least in the US, for most all casement windows, they would open out. So what we're going to do here is we have one icon right up top here, and it says flip. And if you note, it has a little thing there, it shows the opening of the windows, and that's exactly what it's going to flip for us. And so now you see the window shown correctly with the rabbet in it, and with the brick mold. And again, if you wanted a little bigger margin there, you could go back. I think we had a 1/4 inch there. If you want that to be a 1/2 inch or middle of that, whatever you might like. But now it's shown correctly. And we have that. With that, we can go ahead and make changes to, and I think we have these 3 windows over here, these 2 windows here, and this one window back here, okay, will all be the same as this window. So we can do that while we're here. We don't have to go to elevations. We can go here and just suck up the settings. So we've got the window tool activated, and we have the settings for this window there. And then click on the Alt command and highlight the window so it shows lit up. Click on it, and you see it changing hopefully on screen. And I'm going over to the other 3 windows in bedroom 2, and then back to the bathroom window here. And those have all now changed, and we can see that by going to our south elevation, by going over to Organizer, double clicking on south elevation, and all our windows are now shown the way we want them. We'll continue and go to the stair windows here. Again, we have we're in the window tool. I'll just confirm that by going over there and hitting that option and sucking up the settings for that window, and we know we're in the window tool, we can review all those settings. And we'd like to change this window here, and that's made up of 3 windows. I put them in individually. We'll go ahead and manipulate those individually. And to do that, we're going to have to make just a few changes. These windows are set up to be ganged together so that their casing and that all works together. So we're going to have to make a couple of changes, but what we're going to do is we have this window in our window tool right now, and we want to go to these windows and change them to be, you know, this style of window. And I'm not sure which is actually going to be faster, but we'll you know what, I think it's actually faster to open up this window and look at my settings. And I'm going to do, we have that ganging setting set up so that I want to put casing inside and outside. I have sill and stool. It's not, or actually it might be solid wall with siding. I think that might be the correct setting. We'll look at that quickly to make sure before we set all of them that way. All right, so next item for setting, we're going to let all these things go. The glass was 1/2 inch, and everything else I think we left alone, and we left everything alone there. And model view, we got rid of the opening line, and we left that, and the sash setback we had at 0, and casing and everything here. So the only thing we did was, and the reason that's grayed is because we have this ganged. Here we'll set that for 1/4 inch and continue on. 3 degrees, 2.5, 1.5 inches. That's because we do want an apron board outside. 1 5/8 inches in that. We're going to click on apron. That's going to give us that inside. Okay. And nothing we have to change there, nothing we have to change there, nothing we have to do there, nothing here, I believe. Okay, so closure type stud wall with siding. I think this is going to be the profile we're going to get with that running into there. So we might be okay leaving that alone. All right. No masonry arch, and then we're at the last item there. So with that, I'm going to say okay, and then I'm going to go to that second floor plan under permit set in the organizer, and I'm going to go up and I'm going to look at that window and see if it looks kind of the way I want it to look. What I'm not seeing is initially casing on this window, and that is right there because of the display aspect. The brick mold shown correctly set in on top of the plywood and stopping the stucco from coming over, and this looks good. So we're going to actually display order change that, and we'll send that to back, and by doing so our casing and our sill shows up correctly. Hallelujah. All right, so now that window has the ganging and everything. So what we're going to do is we're going to suck up the settings on that. We're going to come over here and click on this, and that sets that correctly. We're going to click on this one, that sets that correctly, and we're going to click on this one, and that sets that correctly. So the only two we now have to change are these two center ones. And what we can do there, and now I hit the tab key. That a lot of times when two things are in the same location, you can switch from one to the other by hitting the tab key. So I hit that, select it, come up here, try to select it, hit the tab key, get the one I want. So now I've got both of those center windows, and I want to take the ganging off so that both sides have no casing. And we'll do that by opening the settings, going in here to, oh gosh, I think it is casing settings maybe? No, I'm sorry. It is general settings. And there's the ganging aspect. So we're going to click off that. Actually, we want it on both sides. So that means it's going to take casing off and gang our window to the two windows on either side of it. Say OK, and then you'll see that it's done that and set that correctly. And why this end unit here isn't set correctly, I don't know. So what we'll do is come over here again and suck up the settings of this window, and that should, yeah, there we go. I don't know why that did, and the same thing happened on this window over here. It didn't set it in correctly, and there it did. Okay. All right, so we've got those windows set correctly. We'll go back to the elevation, and that's looking the way we want it to look there. Nice little apron underneath there, windowsill extended out, and we could always go back and pull that in a little bit if we didn't like it. It was a little too much of a flying ear for us. But that's set. Okay, so now we want to do these windows down here. And I'm going to make a little design change here. I want to do a window with a transom above and then a casement below. I mean, I always intended a casement, but I think because it's a 10-foot ceiling, we've got 9-foot head heights here. I'm looking at probably a 7-foot tall unit, 2-foot tall upper unit, and then the balance below. And again, to help things get set up early on, what I'm going to do is suck up the settings for that window, and then I'm going to open up the window selections and go find the window that I want, which is going to be a casement with a fixed upper. Okay, so I'm going to inject the settings of that upper window into this unit. All right, and if I look at the elevation here, you know, not quite what we want. So we're going to change a few things. That's the width. The height overall is 7. Our header is going to be 9, and we're going to change that and say relink anchor story, and we're going to be on the first floor. So we're going to say OK. Those are always good to read those things and question if you don't understand it. You know, find out and figure it out so that you know what to do. Now this is not the configuration I want in terms of height, but we're going to be able to change that in that long list of USA setting changes that we can do. And I think as we talk about that window, I do want to put a soldier course above the window, and otherwise I think all the other settings are good. So we're going to look through to see where we change that, and that is under opening, shape and opening. And here comes our preview. Shows that we're going to have 2 inches in between here if that in fact is what we want. I'm not sure that, yeah, that's probably fine. The lower one, out of our total 7 feet, we want that to be 5. And you'll see now it looks the way I wanted it to look. And then we're going to go to masonry arch, the bottom here. We're going to turn on arch style and pick an arch style, which is going to be masonry straight across. You'll see that we've got a straight across look there. We'll flip it around, show you on the outside. You know, that's the inside. This is the outside. Hopefully you can see the difference there. And we're going to come down here and find type. We want that to be a brick arch. By the way, that stucco arch, you can really interpret that as a stone one as well. What we're going to call it, they call it brick arch. You know, we're on a straight across, so there really is no arch per se. The brick thickness 2 5/8, the mortar thickness 3/8. Mine, I go a little thicker, 1/2 inch. It's just a look. And then as we look at here, this is, you know, kind of elevation section things. I want that, I want it to protrude out 1 inch. We'll leave it as 8 inches tall, even though it's really probably 7 5/8. But visually we can leave that at 8 for the moment. Depth of it being 4. Again, that would be 3 5/8. You want to be particular, but this sort of stuff doesn't show up anywhere. And then I would really like to have the brick probably run straight up and down from the edges of the trim. So we're going to leave those both at 0. And I think that what we are going to do is we're going to go down and look at that windowsill. I think we have to change that windowsill to run up and down with the casing. And to do that, we're going to go to casing settings, sill and stool settings. All right. Now, this has always hit me as a little strange, but in order to adjust this brick sill, these are the settings. So, sill overhang left, want that to be 0. Sill overhang right, want it to be 0. And you can actually see the brick moved in, brick moved in. All right. I know this says sill and stool settings, and you'd kind of assume that this had something to do with this sill, but it really has to do with the brick sill. Little quirky note. Okay, I think that does everything we wanted to do with that window. We're going to click on OK. It's going to make, or it did make all those changes into our settings. And one other setting we want to change on that casement before we start injecting is, well, in fact, let me just show you that when we go and inject that into that window, we've got that another line going through every brick there. And again, this is something to note because it's kind of a quirky setup. And I actually think too, I'm going to go in and make that distance between the two windows thinner because I don't like that particular look. So let's do 2 things. So we'll open up the settings there and go to that shape and opening, and I'm going to bring that down to 3/4 of an inch. Okay, and then we're going to go to the masonry arch. You see where it says brick arch and the thicknesses and all the settings here. Nothing would indicate to you. It says masonry arch. It's even previewing the fact that there's no line in there, but yet here there's a line. Strange thing is, what it, at least to me, it's picking up the surface settings, the 3D surface settings. Real easy fix. I mean, it's not a fix, it's just a setting, but you have to know where to look for this, and it does take some searching if you're not familiar with it. So we're going to go over here, and you see the 2 buttons. Right now we're on all the dimensions for the masonry arch. Here we actually go to settings for surfaces and section fill for the arch. So at the moment, we are currently set for surfaces, and that's how things are shown in 3D, to be that arch to be a running, and you can't read all of it, but it's a running bond. So we're going to click on that and show that it's currently set to be brick running bond. We don't want it to be brick running bond. We basically like just brick surface color. Okay, and then we'll get the, I believe we will get the vertical lines that we want even in 3D. If we don't, we'll come back here, maybe go to a stack bond or something. But I think surface color, if we do that, that's going to get rid of those lines for us. The masonry arch mortar and doing a stucco white, I'm not sure that's what we want there either. Again, I'm going to just say that gray light. And that's how we change that arch or this flat soldier course going across. And I think when we click OK, that's going to make the appropriate change for us. So we got the nicer thickness here between the upper and lower windows, and then we've got the soldier course shown the way we wanted individual units. Now how that looks in 3D we'll see later. So that's all our settings for that. We're going to suck up those settings to just make sure we've got them all. And we're going to go to this window and click on it, and click on it, and we've got those. We're going to make this one the same. We're making this one the same. We're making this one and this one and this one the same. And you note this overhang comes down a little further. You know, my plan here is to have it kind of an open soffit, so we will see that detail going up there. And I may go up here and change and add soldier course to each and every of these windows overhead. In fact, I probably will, but for right now I don't care. My 3D view is going to show correctly. And I might, you know, adjust the height of these windows. As a matter of fact, as I'm sitting here talking about it, you know, I think I will maybe pull those down because they're set rather high in that garage. And let's bring them down a foot. Control D, drag them down, D 1 foot, and we'll get that look from the outside. And frankly, I like that better. That works just fine for the garage. So we've got to remember to do that for the back. And if you're like me, when you're thinking of something, you should just go ahead and do it. Again, we'll just suck up those settings. We'll go to the first floor plan. We'll zoom out, go over and find the back wall, zoom in, and let's set those windows to match the front windows. So that set our head height and everything that we had set here, and then all the other settings that we had for those windows. So we did that. So now we'll go back to our elevation and see what we want to tackle next. I think I'm not going to tackle door yet. I'll come back to that. And same thing for the front door. I think I want to go ahead and tackle this large picture window and then this corner picture window and make appropriate changes there. I think I will suck up the settings for the second floor window here, and I will come down. I will change the header up here to be 9 feet, and I will change the story to relink the anchor story to the first. And so now I've got all the settings of this coming down here, and I want to change the sizes. I think that was a 6 wide and a 6 tall. And then I will inject those into that. Looks like it might have been a little taller, so we'll make that 7 feet tall. And now I've got that set the same way the other windows are. One thing to note that we didn't change up here as I look at that window and see that overhang is I didn't want that overhang on those upper windows. So I'm going to open up one of them, and I'm going to go into that sill and stool settings like we did when we were talking on that other first floor window, and put 0 in there and 0 in there and say OK, and that'll adjust that. Just suck up those settings and make sure I've got them, and I'll click on each of those windows. And because I know I want that bathroom window set the same way, I'm going to do that. Oops, what happened there? Let's go undo. We had some setting. I'm going to take that front window setting, click on it, and we've got that set up. All right. I think what it did is it brought that first floor setting that we had over here with me when we were doing that. All right, back to the elevation. And we want to go into this custom corner, and again we've got to fix those at brick sill on this window. And we'll go up and click on settings for it, and we'll go to sill and stool settings and 0 and 0 and OK, and that'll pull those back in. All right, so we have that window in as I normally do. When it's too hard to figure out or it's not working the way you think, you just go ahead and open up your window and you go through the settings that you need to do. And in this particular case, we're going to put casing in and out. We want the sill, we want the stool. It's going to be a brick veneer wall. We're not going to gang it, we're actually going to leave brick in between. And those settings are all fine. Here again, just maybe 1/2 inch for that glass. I don't think we changed anything else. We're not going to set it back any. And here, I think that was just a 1/4 we did down here. And you get used to these settings, and ultimately too, you will set up what we call our favorites. There's a little radio button up here. When you do set windows up, and you'll set up your own library, you'll create favorites so that you can use them all the time, and you'll have to make very few setting adjustments. You know, of course, if you change your casing size, or you don't normally change brick mold size, but the casing side inside, or use a stool or not a stool, fully wrap the window, so on. You'll make those changes, but you will make not anywhere near the amount of changes we're making here on a first-time basis, right? So just so you're clear on that, this isn't something you have to do on every project, because it is a little long and tedious, but it does give you the accuracy that most of us architects want, especially when we've got CAD available to us and we can make things exact. All right, we'll move over here. We're going to add the apron to that. We are on 3 degrees already. Everything here can stay, it looks like, how we've got. That sill overhang on the left and right, we're going to make that 0 and 0, so we don't have to come back and fool with that. Nothing on that, nothing there, nothing on the custom corner because it's already set. Reveal depth, we're going to go there and make that 2. Note here, you can't just do that and hit 2. 2 won't go in there. You actually have to hit that radio button, change it to 2, then you can make that change. We're going to go to detailed. We're going to go to 2.625 inches. We're going to go to 1/2 inch on the mortar. We're going to go to brick surface color. We're going to go to light gray. Where are you, light gray? There you go. And 3 degrees and 4 inches and 2 inches and 2 inches, and I think that's it for that. Masonry arch, yes, we are going to have one there. Straight away brick, 2 5/8, 3 5, make that a 1/2, and 1 inch on the protruding portion of the arch, and we'll keep that at 0 as well. So we're going to say that looks fine, and now we'll change to the floor plan. And at the floor plan, what we're going to do is we're going to suck up the settings for this corner window and place them into the corner window in the back, and that makes its changes. And this picture window, I'm going to suck up those and inject them into the one in back. And then here, what I want is 7 5/8 inches between my brick molds, because I want to have a stack bond course that's going to run in between there. So I'm going to go Control D, and you know what, let's do Control D. I'm going to hit that point, bring it right to the edge of that brick mold, and then do Control D again and go 7.625 for 7 5/8 inches, and move it, and just to make sure, use the M tool go from there to there, and we've got 7 5/8 inches. So that's going to be a brick stack corresponding, and I'm going to actually show you how we're going to get that to look correctly by using the morph tool. So we moved that one. I want to move the window in the back the same distance. I'm going to go Control D, grab the center point, align it with the center point here. See the check mark come up, telling me I'm in the center. And now that one's moved the same distance and is set up the same as that one. Let's go back and look at our front elevation and see how we're doing in terms of getting this elevation looking the way we want. Okay, actually looking good. Let's go ahead and do this double door right here. And the door settings are a little bit different, but not terribly. Why they can't make them the same, I don't know. But again, we'll have the USA settings, go into custom settings, start at the nominal size and tolerances. Nothing we really want to change here. Go to the next. We have the threshold set the way we want. The sill is going to go to a stone sill. All right, casing in and out, yes. Brick veneer, yes. Reveal depth right now set at 0. That'll get set differently when we get to reveal settings. We'll say fine, continue on. Frame style, just note we've already got it set for a rabbited jamb. I'm not sure this would be a full 1/2 inch of a rabbet going in there. Probably be more like a 1/4 to 3/8, but I think visually that'd probably be fine. And I would probably change this to be 4 1/2 inches, be consistent with our windows, if you remember. And again, standard probably 4 9/16, and then from there they add on extension jambs. We'll go to the next, and we're going to look at a single pane of glass for those front doors. That's what she wants, and that'll actually be what we're going to do on the back doors as well. We're going to go ahead and put handles on just for a look. Handle number 3, and we just toggle through all these and just put that same handle on, even though it might be slightly different on the inside. For our purposes, probably be fine. So we've got handles put on. Frame width, that bottom I think probably could be more like 8 inches, even on some doors up to 12, especially maybe on a, oops, and I did the right, and I didn't mean to do the right. We'll put that back to 4. And lower is, I think actually we'll make it a foot because it's an 8-foot high door. Probably needs a little more structure. Okay, on that, next settings, we're already set for our correct proportions. Our symbolic display, we're going to go to override and get rid of that opening line. If we look at all of our settings here, the margin overhang there at 1/4 inch, casings all at 2, jamb thickness there 1/2 inch, maybe correct, or could be 3/4, but that's fine for the moment. That's all set correctly. Threshold extended both sides. We've got the sill type here. Slip in depth, that's just how far it slides in under. We're going to change the pitch to 3 degrees. This 1 49/64, I think we'll just make that 2 inches. And I think for this thickness here, we'll make that 4 inches. And down at the bottom here, 3 3/8. And let's make that 4 inches. Okay, this is set up for a 1/2 inch in and or half inch thick and 1 inch in. That's all fine. Sill type, right overhang, left overhang. We're going to probably be in the neighborhood of 2 1/2 inches. Let's see what that looks like. You might want to go further than that. Let's see what 3 inches looks like. So what I'm looking at here is the sill here overhanging. I guess we'll do 3 there as well. Okay. And again, you can set that to be whatever you feel visually you want for yours. I just want a little bit beyond that, and so that's where I'm going. Nothing for that, nothing for that. We're set for brick veneer, wall skins number, we want that to be 2. And other than that, I think we're looking good there. Interesting is the difference between the sill and the brick sill there. All right. Masonry arch, yes, we want it on. You saw us set all these settings before, 2 5/8, so we use 1/2 inch there, and 8, and put in 1 there, and there is no arch on the header. We may have forgotten that a few times. We'll have to look back on whether we clicked off on that because there is no arch. Okay, so we've got that, and that's our last one. Minimal space, we don't worry about that in parameters. Okay, so one thing that I'm not going to want blue on my soldier course when I look at that in my elevation. So what I'm going to do is go back to masonry arch. This is the icon for all the dimensioning. This is the icon for the settings for the arch itself. So one we're going to make is going to go to that light gray. This one looks like it's already set for brick surface color. And then instead of the blue, number 7, we're going to come down here to just 1 and number black, or number 1 and black. Okay. So I think we can say okay, and at least we'll be on our way to a door at the front there. Now what we'll do is, again, it's currently in our settings, but we're going to grab it like so. We're going to come up here to single door or doors and go to the single door and inject it. And of course it gives us our size. The only thing we need to change is 3 feet, and say okay. Now that's the setting we have, and we'll put that in that place, and that's then set correctly. Now I'm going to probably decide on a custom door here and bring it up to the 9-foot height to make that work visually. I think 9 feet would be pretty close, and I may change my mind later and do something different, but for the moment that's what I'm going to do to kind of essentially get that lined up. And why that isn't totally lining up, because these windows are set at 9 foot. That's correct, header 9 foot. So it still doesn't get me what I want. I'm going to have to come back and review that. But we've done those. What we're going to do is we're going to come back to this door. We're going to suck up the settings there. Okay. We're going to go to the floor plan, first floor plan, and we're going to look for all those double doors. And those double doors are all back here and back here, so I'm going to inject that into every one of those. In fact, we'll go to the first floor under the permit set so we can see the composition. Composite walls. Click on that one, click on that one. So you see, when you get it changed on one, and then we did it on the front one here, so we can do that on this one and do it on this one. And apparently I injected when I should have sucked up. We'll click off all those. I need to suck up the settings on this and then inject and inject. Looks like I made those doors a little larger. I don't need those to be 3-footers. I think I had them at 2/8. So I'm going to go back and change those to 2'8". All right, and you notice how they adjusted those, to the side that it was swinging, because we put those in with anchor points off of these walls here. And of course, as we're looking at this, I noticed they are different. And that's why you always have to kind of be on the lookout, so to speak. So out of curiosity, let's just hover over this, get our guideline. And if we bring our guideline to right there, there is the opening, and that's set for a stud cripple 3 inches. But for some reason, this one didn't get set that way, because there's 1.5 inches. So we're going to pull this over and go D 3 inches and take the opportunity to move this door to its correct location by dragging it over to that guideline. And now it's correct. So you always got to be on the lookout for that in case things change kind of awkwardly. And you know, one thing we didn't do on this first floor plan too is change those first floor walls. So let's just go search for walls interior, and that's all we really need to do. That'll get all our interior walls, and we'll now change them to a composite wall and select our 2x6 wood studs with half on both sides, and they'll get changed to the correct composite, and we've got that set up correctly. Now we may decide we want to go in and insulate these walls around this bath, and we'll just have to change the wall type that we have there. And also we have a problem with this staircase too, so we'll be back to visit that staircase and get that shown correctly. Okay, back to our elevation just to keep going where we're going. Okay, so now we'll go and look at, let's look at our rear elevation, which if this is south, and the rear will double click on north, and that generates up for us. So the things that we need to change here, just out of curiosity, these two doors that we changed, we don't want those to be 9-footers, so we're going to take those back to 8s. And then we will actually suck up those, and we didn't change this door to the garage. And I don't think we're going to want that door to be a glass door into the garage. So we're going to open up the settings on that, go to the door panel, make it a flush door, and say okay. All right, so now another thing we can do is with this triple slider, what we'll do is suck up our settings on this single door. Know that that slider is 9 foot wide. All right, so we will go to door under settings, open up the door settings, go find that sliding glass door, and it was this door, and we will now inject the settings from that single door. All right, there'll be a few things we're going to, I know one thing will change, but do that. Now, width-wise, it was a 9-footer, so we'll change that. And on this is going to be more of a French. I normally don't see this at 12 inches. I'll see this at 4 or 8. So I'm going to go ahead and just change that to be a little peculiar as I am. And we'll go in here at the foot, and I'll put in 8 inches for there. Probably not worth the time and effort. Okay, so we'll say okay. Maybe that door handle's not the correct door handle. Let's see, do we have anything that would look like it would work for a sliding glass door? Possibly knob 9 here. Let's change them all to knob 9. All right. Okay. And now we will inject those into this door. And we've got it shown the way we want. Okay, so we've got these doors, that door, these, that window upstairs, these doors, that window, these two windows. So we have these and that master that are going to need to be changed. And I think the way we will change those is we're going to go to the floor plan on the second floor, because we have these windows over here. We're going to go to those windows on the second floor, and this window in the center has settings for ganging on both sides. And there's look at that too. We didn't change that one before. I'm going to suck up that settings, go to here. Come on. Why that doesn't take, I don't know. But we wanted that molding to go into the sheathing, not to, and then let the stucco die into that molding. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to suck up the settings of this center window. That would then be the same as window number 2, 3, 4, 5 here and both sides. So I will go along and inject those settings on these windows. And again, I just like to get the window to light up, and then I know I have it. Okay, so we changed those. Now, an end unit. Oops, I injected instead. Didn't mean to do that, didn't mean to do that. I want to just reverse my action. Okay. Resetting. All right, now suck up those settings. Now come over here and inject them into that. And of course, as I'm just noticing, that's not what we want, because that was in a stucco wall and this is in a brick wall. So not how we want to do it. So what we will do is we will go suck up the settings on this window. The window is a 3x3, the new window that we're going to be doing. So we're going to make that 3x3. Head height is correct at 7.6. And then what we want to do is remove the casing from both sides. Let's see here. Casing, turn it off. And then also we want to go to ganging and gang both sides. And that should give us the correct settings. Okay. Now we will go inject those into this window, this window, this one, this one. Funny how it does just want to try to find the center point as I'm clicking on those. So we got those done that way. Now we'll go up and we will click on to and turn off that casing and just say OK. And that's what did it. So something to do with that setting for that casing when we set up the ganging, but that's the way we want it to look. Okay, and then we have this one goofed up that way too. So that's under general. We just turn that casing off and we got it. Okay. Again, all these little things that you just either learn and try to remember or sometimes are new to the experience, and you just have to roll with them and figure them out as you're going. So I'm going to suck up the settings on that one. That should be the same as this one, and it looks like we've got it set correctly. And that one, and come over here and inject it in that side, and again that looks correct. Okay, so what we need to do is on our corner windows we're going to select both, and then we're just going to go in and make those changes through the whole list. And here we go. So casing out, casing. The ganging is what we've got there. I think should be okay because we do want to gang it that way. Again, here we're just going to change that glass to 1/2 inch, and we keep that, and a no setback. And here is 1/4 inch down there on the overhang or margin, I should say. 3 degrees, 1.5 inches, 1 5/8. Let's add the apron. That's fine. And the wall inset, nothing there. Nothing for sunshade, nothing for custom corner, nothing for reveal. We're going to go to the skins depth, make it 2. Put on the brick sill. I know something we're going to have to do with regard to the sill. Detailed. The brick surface. light gray. You see kind of how quickly I'm doing this. Hope you're following it since we've done it a little bit. Mortar thickness, a 1/2 inch. And 625 inches. And 3 degrees. And 4 inches. And 2 inches. And 2 inches. Now there may be a way to inject, as we've been doing, but with that custom corner function, that's where I was having my troubles getting it to work correctly. So that's why we're going through these extra steps of setting all these things for us. And what did we do with arches back here? I don't remember. I'm going to leave this arch off. But realistically, we're going to probably have an open. Let's put it on then. We're going to have a brick arch running around here anyhow. So that's what we want. And 1 inch there. And no arch on the header arch. Okay, so we want to go back to sill and stool settings. And the sill, we should be able to, I don't know why we can't make the change there. That should be highlighted up. I think it's because it's 90-degree window. We'll have to figure that out, what we're going to do about that. So the masonry, the arch was all done, and that pretty much makes us all done for this window. So we can say okay. And hopefully those change. There we go. Let's see what they look like. Now, what's happened here is because the window has been moved in, that it is lengthened, because it's a corner unit, it's lengthened it each way. So what we're going to have to do is, in this case, grab this window, zoom in a little bit, Control D, take the edge of the frame and bring it to right there. And that gets set properly. And take this one, go Control D, do the same thing. And I didn't quite do that correctly, so I'm going to let that to there. And the reality is I may end up changing this to fatten this jam up a little bit. Because I think I'm going to have to end up with some kind of header cantilevering from here to here and catching another very long header that's going to come across here. Otherwise I've got this freewheeling corner here that's got to get supported somehow. All right, we did that. Now, in order to fix this here, we're going to grab all these windows, zoom in here, Control D, grab that point there, and bring that down. Correct? Trying to figure out what I'm doing there. Where are we going with that? There? Doesn't make sense, but I guess it is. Just not seeing it. To there. Okay, that's correct. All right, same thing on the other side. We'll get moving along here. Sorry, this is taking longer than I had anticipated. Got that one correct. Okay, so those windows are all in good shape. Let's go to that rear elevation and take a look at what's going on up there. Not too bad, but maybe we have a little bit of a conflict going on there. Some height issues and some height issues there. Maybe I will go in and investigate those and come back and tell you what I did. Well, we're going to continue on with the presentation on elevations and the creation of those. And we'll open up the Archicad here. We've got this floor plan pretty well set, and we have 4 elevation markers around the floor plan here. And what we're going to do is look at those elevations. Let's just click on the one down here at the bottom, which is the south or front elevation. We'll open that up, and again, just what we want to do is that's a construction document type of drawing or elevation, and what we want to create is a more of a preliminary design with maybe a little bit of color in it and shading in the windows and maybe a sky and some trees. And so in order to do that, we'll close out of that elevation, and we're going to take this elevation down here, and I'm going to right click on it and say move, drag a copy, and I'm going to drag that downward, put it right behind or below that elevation marker. And now I'm going to open up that elevation, get the elevation settings, and we're going to go to the marker head, and we're going to differentiate it on the floor plan from the one that's right above it in black, and we're going to change its fill pen here to well, let's say that burgundy color, and then let's go over to the contour of that marker as well and change that to the burgundy. And as we look at it down here, let's just click off of it and we'll go down and zoom in on it. And it looks like the outline changed, but the fill didn't, so I must have missed a setting there. I guess it's the fill pen I wanted, and that should give us what we're looking for. Let's say OK, and it does. So now you see we have 2 different markers there, and this being the construction, this being the presentation, let's call it, marker. And what we're going to also do with that marker is go over here under elevations, and we just copied the south one, and so it labeled it automatically 1 south elevation. So on this one, we're going to do a couple of things. We're going to go in here and right click on that and say rename, and we're going to name that the front elevation. Do it in all caps. Again, another way to differentiate it in our list here, the front will label front, right, left, and rear, and those will be our presentation elevations, and then the ones that are listed east, north, south, west, those are going to be our construction ones. Now what we're also going to do is change in this front elevation here, we're going to change a setting for the model view options and not say construction documents, but we're going to just put it down here as presentation solid. It doesn't really change any of our looks for that, but I just like to make that a change so that another way I can quickly see that that in fact is the presentation marker. All right, we'll go back and open up the settings, and we'll close that marker head, and we'll come down here to the model display. I'm sorry, open that up. And we don't have any cut elements to set for in the elevation. We just have uncut elements. And to start with, we're going to fill the uncut elements with, we're going to click on this and go to Own Surface Colors and Shaded. And you'll see the result when we open it up in a minute here. So click on that. We're going to leave the Uniform Pen unchecked. Check the vectorial hatching if it isn't on yours, if you're following along. Then down under Sun and Shadows, we're going to click Sun Shadow. On the Mark Distance area, we're going to click Mark Distant Area. We're going to fill with the Own Surface Colors Shaded, vectorial hatching, sun shadow. All right, so now we've got all those clicked and set for this elevation. We're going to say OK. And then what we're going to do is right click on this and go open elevation in new window. And there is our elevation. And you can see some colors and a faded background, and that's another setting in our elevation. We'll go back to the floor plan and note that we have this marker line right here, and that gives us the ability to give the drawing a little bit of depth by putting anything, in this case above this line, is going to be, we'll call it grayed out or ghosted a little bit. And I really want to see the whole front elevation in color without it being grayed out. So I'm going to take it and go just beyond the ridge line here of this roof in the living room, just beyond that. And so that the only thing that should be shaded will be this chimney that's sticking up here. And we'll go right click, open elevation in new window, and there's our elevation. And you can see the chimney back here is kind of muted, and that gives us some depth. Now, what I want to point out to you here too is that I already had made the change on the window glass here, and I'm going to run through that with you so you know what I did, because that's not just created by any of the other settings that we have here. So what I did was I went up to options, and I went to element attributes, and I went to surfaces. Okay, and that glass surface is glass clear right here, and before it used to be clear. All right, and I went in and I changed the color. I first copied that and have another one called glass 2 clear. Let me just show you the glass clear number 2. Right, that was, I just saved the original settings for glass clear, so I had those so I wouldn't have to figure out exactly what they were. And so on my glass clear now, I changed the surface color here, and I just brought that icon right there, that little target was in the center, and I just pulled it down here, and then I made it a little darker to about here. And again, you could make it whatever darkness or lightness that you want. The reason I change it and I like it is because I like the look of the darker windows. If you drive down the street and look at some homes, you'll notice that, you know, windows, unless they have a drapery pulled right behind them, will show up or relatively dark. And I just put a little tint of blue in here, and that's the look we get. So there is our elevation. And what we're going to do is jump back again to that first floor. And if you note, this is how I did the first one. I'm going to grab this elevation. I'm going to say move, copy, drag a copy. Just put it right behind it. Okay. And that one got thrown on here as 2 west. So we're going to take that and rename and call that right elevation. So as we look at it from the front, it's the right elevation. And then we're going to take this one up here and do a move, drag a copy, same thing, just pull that up here, and that got added as a 3 north. We're going to rename that rear elevation, and then the left elevation, we're going to do the same thing. And name that the left elevation. Okay. So now we've got those, but of course they're just copies of the construction one that was directly in front of them. So we're going to go over here and suck up these settings for this elevation, and then we're going to inject it into these others. And you note the marker head changes, and all the settings for those elevations will change. And we'll give you an example of that and take that one and just say open elevation and new window. And there you have that side of the house, and it's in a color rendition, if you will. So let's go back to the front elevation, and now, and we don't have to have these story levels on. You can just click on those and hit hide story levels. We'll do that for each elevation. But we'd like to add a little bit of something to this elevation to make it still look a little more preliminary and not just so stark, so to speak. So I'm going to add a line for the grade, and I'm setting it for landscape site as my layer, and then I've selected this line type down here at the bottom, and we're just going to highlight that bottom of the wall here, and our guideline should come up. Not sure why it isn't coming up. There's one there, so we'll just hover that one over that point, and for some reason it drew a line, so we'll undo that. I'm going to make that a black line too, so I'm going to change that pen type, and then let's see if we can get that to, there's our guideline, and we'll just be out here a ways, click out here and take it across to here. Alright, so that gives us a little bit of a grade line. Then we're going to put a couple of trees to this, and we'll do that by going to our object tool and change our layer to landscape site. I know we have one that says plants, but we're just going to put it all on site, landscape site layer. And we're going to click on trees. If they didn't come up, you come up here, type in trees, and then these will come up. Click on that icon and come over here, and we have a few different types of trees. First one is maple. We'll take the maple, click on it, go to 2D representation, get the foggy version. If the side view isn't showing and it's got the top view or symbolic top view, just click on that and set that for side view. Select that one, and then we'll come over here and place that like so, and we'll go back to that and pick another tree type. Let's make that the linden, and make that the foggy one as well, and set it over on this side. And we will take those and actually take both of them and send them to the back by going display order, send to back, and that should put it behind our elevation. I don't know, I think I did this before and I had to do one at a time for some reason. There we go. And that's sent to back. Okay, so that gives us a little bit of a context, if you will. We have this one a little bit above the grade level there, and we'll pull that down a bit. All right, now I started adding a sky a while back, and the way I do that is I go to a fill setting, keep that landscape site setting as well, and under here we're going to set up for linear gradient fills, okay, and then the color that we're going to select here, oh, I guess it could be the one that I have, but let's maybe go a little bit lighter, darker. How about there? We'll see what that looks like. And so what I'm going to do is come back here and just click and put a fill in the background, something of that nature, and that is, we'll rotate that some to look like so, and then we'll pull this up like so, which I think I think we can pull the bottom down a little bit too to stretch that color a little more. Blend it out a little bit. All right, and then we're going to take that and right click it. We have the house behind, and right click it and go display, order, send to back. And then that puts it in the back. We can expand it over a little bit this way. And we kind of get the look of a sky and a couple of trees. And if you wanted to go and put some bushes in and that sort of thing, you know, that could be done as well. But this gives a little bit of look. Another good one is that linear gradient again. And if we stay with that and change the color to, let's say, a gray color here, and put in a ground fill, and again that's set up the same way, so we'll highlight that, we'll take this, we'll rotate it around and pull it like so. We don't actually want to pull it down, we want it to go up with it. Let's go into about this range, and maybe a little more up than that. Oops, did it on an angle. We'll undo that. We want to just go straight up with it. And I'll just hold my shift key a little more. And let's try still yet another adjustment there. How about there? All right. That gives us a little bit of a look, if you will. And again, we can take those outlines off of our fills, and we get that look, which again I think is a little more pleasant. And what we can then do is literally with this front elevation like this, come over here and take the front elevation, bring it over to our first elevation sheet, which is number 5 in this case, drop it on there, open that up by double clicking it, and then just clicking on this window. You see the window that's there. Let's bring the window down to the size of our drawing that we brought over, or our view I should say, instead of drawing. And we'll pull that up to there and pull that up to there, and let's take it and drag it over. Let's say the bottom is probably pretty close to what we want. Again, Control D for drag. Let's pull it to there, and let's pull this in, and let's pull it down to about halfway. If you see, that's the halfway point. And we've got it in position. We'll actually take the drawing itself inside, click on that icon, and then we can move it with inside that box and just kind of maybe recenter it a little bit. And the bottom, I think we're going to pull that up again, looks like, so we can get the name on there like so. We may go back and just take that ground and change it a bit. And we've got the front elevation on our sheet of paper. We'll just close out of that for the moment. If we go back over here and let's say we want the rear elevation to look the same, the easy way is just to take our items that we just put on and click on all of them. So the lines, the fills, okay, and do Command C or copy, okay, click off of that if you like, go to the rear elevation, and we're going to turn these off, hide the story levels. All right, zoom out of that a little bit, and let's go paste or Control V, and we'll go with original and keep current view. So let's say paste and see where that puts it. Okay, off to the side. So while it's still got that dashed line running around it, we're going to Control D, drag it, to behind the home, and actually that looks pretty good. We can click off of that and put it in the center here by hitting the zoom extents, and we've got the rear elevation ready to go. Again, take it, drag it over to elevations, layout, drop it on there, open that back up, see that it put it over here, and there's a way to set this so that it plops it on at the right place in presets, but again, that's not how it comes set up, so I didn't want to confuse you with that right off the bat. Awfully big window there. So we'll just bring that into about there, bring this down to here, and I guess the bottom one, we know that has to come up pretty far into this area here. Control D, drag that bottom corner, see if we put it in there, what it's going to look like. A lot of sky on top, but we're going to pull that down, so we'll pull that over like so. Click on that window, bring that down, and then click right on that black button right there in the center and just move it over a bit. Let's see what that takes to look like. And again, not too bad. If we want to clean this up a little bit, we go back to the view, pull that over a bit. Same thing on the other side. But that looks pretty good. Maybe we get that name here to get pulled up into the ground on the drawing that it belongs on. And down here we had it actually in the white. We wanted to be consistent. It depends what you like. We'll leave one way and one the other way, and that way you can see both. All right, that's done, and I'm looking at the setup for the scale over here. Okay, we'll get that on there. Looks a little better. Go back to elevations. We have a right elevation. There it is. Let's right click on that, hide the story levels. Go Control V. That pastes our background in because the side view is not as wide as the front and rear views. That goes up like so. So we'll click on that. We'll take that background fill and bring it into there. We'll take our tree and bring it into, say, about there. That looks pretty good. This line, align it with the edge of the fill, and this fill, line the edge with that fill. All right, that looks pretty good. We'll take that right elevation, drop that onto A6 elevations, and then let's go to the left view, zoom out a little bit, get rid of our story settings by sometimes it grabs the story setting and recognizes it. Sometimes you have to zoom in a little bit more to find that. Don't you wonder sometimes? All right, so you saw it turn to a Mercedes there, and then we were able to get it. Okay, so we'll go. You know what? Let's take that little roof part there and change that to our standing seam roof, and that is right there, and I think that'll change it. Yep, that looks better. Okay, so again, this one we'll zoom out a little bit and say Control V, so we still have that on the clipboard, and there's our background. We'll click on it, drag it over to, say, about there, and then we'll again manipulate our background fill, move our tree, and adjust our ground line and line. So you see how we were able to copy those. Just makes it a whole heck of a lot faster, and you have a level of consistency. Okay, so there's our other elevation, which was the left. We'll just zoom extents. Looks pretty good. And with that, we'll take the left and put that on our page 6 as well. Double click on 6, A6 layout, and we'll zoom out a bit here. And you see they brought them in. We'll bring down these windows. Actually, what we can do too here is I'll show you that in settings, for the drawing settings, there's a place to change that, and that is right here under frame. And instead of manually resize, you can say fit the frame, and then it'll bring it in, as you'll see here, and it fits it to the frame. Now we don't have to massage it as much as we did. And again, we can do that to this one and make the change. And now when we drag them over, let's put this one down here like so, and let's bring this to the middle of the page. We'll adjust that in our window a little bit, maybe bring this to the center here like so. And then let's take this one, Control D, grab the bottom corner here and bring it in about the same neighborhood like so. Bring the top down. Of course, we don't want to be down that far, but we're trying to get them put into this sheet, and then we'll just grab this drawing inside here and bring it down. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, not bad. And again, bring this one down to about there. Looks pretty good. And we have both of those. We'll zoom extents, bring that up a little bit. And there's our two sheets. Those borders won't print out. That's just for us at this stage, and look pretty good. So we now have our elevation sheet, and we have our roof plane sheet, and our first and second floor sheet. We can actually publish all of those, and I'm going to go ahead and show you that. It's relatively straightforward and pretty quick, if you will. So what we're going to do is go over here to, I'm going to put layouts on the left side by clicking the layout icon, and then we're going to get the publisher icon over here. And right now we have these sheets that were already set up under Test Archicad. I'm going to just delete the ones I don't want, like the cover sheet. Delete anyway, and no, it took the whole thing. That's fine. So we'll what we want to do is bring over this one, this one, this one, and this one. And so we just literally grab those, drag them over with this set for layouts to PDF, and then we're going to create a folder to put that in, and we're going to call this presentation drawings. All right, and then we'll take all of those and just drag them into there. All right, so there's our drawings that we'd like to print out or publish. And by publish, I mean we're going to create PDFs out of them and put them into a file. So we're going to right click on that folder and say Publishing Properties, and come over here and say we want to create a real folder structure, and we're going to go and save it to a location. And in this case, I'm going to save it to the desktop, and I'm going to create a new folder under my Archicad movie called New Folder, and we'll label that presentation drawings, and hit create. So under that, we're going to say OK, and then that is where we have set this up to save the files. you know, it could be printing if we wanted to go plot it or upload it, but we're going to create a real folder structure for that. And then we're going to say OK. And now we actually go down here and publish them. And so we'll hit publish. You see a little window will pop up here, and it says it's publishing those, and in essence saving them to the location I had asked for. And we'll see one more. Of course, those color drawings are pretty sizable, 3.5 megabytes. And that's done doing that. We say close. And now just to show you, we'll go over to Finder and literally go to the desktop, and under the called untitled folder and Archicad movie, we will find a folder well, I'm not seeing my PDFs there. And our presentation drawings are listed right here. We actually wanted those under that untitled folder and Archicad movie, and we'll put that under, we'll just leave it under Archicad movie. So there we are, another folder because of what we sent over. And there's our PDFs. We'll just open one of those up. There's a PDF floor plan. Looks like it got cut off there, so we may have to go republish that one. We'll click off of that and go back here and just take a look at the second floor too. That one looked like it came out okay. So we can go back and just republish that one and replace it in this group. And you know, might as well show you, you know, how I would go about doing that right now. So that's going to be the first floor we had the issue with. So we'll come back over here to view and actually the layout, and we'll look at the first floor plan and see that that window somehow had abbreviated our view there. So that looks better. And so with that, we'll come over to these drawings and find first floor plan and just say delete. And we'll say yes, delete. And we'll take this one and bring it over here, and we've got that there. So now we will just select first floor, and we'll publish the selected items. That's in that folder, so it's got the same location set up for it. And there it is being saved, and it's done just like that. And we close, and let's go to Finder and show you that under desktop, untitled folder, Archicad movie, we have the presentation drawings and that first floor plan. We opened up the PDF, and what to my wondering eyes should appear, but we don't like what we've got there. Let's see if we have two of those in there. And no, actually we don't. So for some odd reason, let's delete that PDF. Move to trash. How's that? Okay. Now let's go back to Archicad. Let's go back to this first floor plan. We can actually pop it open here and see what it looks like, and that's what it'll look like right here. So we know it's going to look correct. We'll take that, we'll publish it, just saved it, close, go back again to Finder, and for whatever reason, presentation drawings, it put it over here. I must have messed up on a setting, but what we'll do is just click on that, take it over to the untitled folder, over to Archicad movie and to presentation drawings, in presentation drawings and drop it on there. And now it's in there. And now we'll click and open it, and now it's correct. So that looks great. Showed you how to make that correction. And hopefully you enjoyed this. I know it was a little long. Hopefully you know to scroll through it as need be to skip parts that you don't need to watch for whatever reason. Anyhow, we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.